Nancy Pelosi proposed the No Ban Act, which would be congressional limitation on what President Trump's actually able to do with that travel restriction.
Okay, but I mean, he lies about that. Peter Navarro, somebody else who talks to Trump a lot, told him directly January 29th, you got to get ahead of this. February 10th.
2 days later, he implemented a restrictive travel ban from China, which he was widely criticized for. It sounds to me like you're fully agreeing with President Trump on this when everybody else disagreed with him. And if you're saying that you wish that travel restriction had been more extreme, okay, fine. You apparently had the foresight back then, but when nobody else did. But the fact is, if Joe Biden was in charge at that moment, he's already said he wouldn't have done it. He criticized it at the time.
Tom Cotton and Dan Crenshaw have legislation to allow individual Americans to sue China for the damage done to them and their families. That's something to look at. I'd like to look at a pandemic tariff.
And this week, Senator Tom Cotton and Congressman Dan Crenshaw introduced a bill that would allow Americans to sue China in federal court to recover damages for death, injury, and economic harm caused by the virus by silencing doctors and journalists who tried to warn the world about the coronavirus. The Chinese Communist Party allowed the virus to spread quickly around the globe.
Let's let Americans sue the Chinese government. So this bill would simply change the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act so that we can actually do that in our courts. We would do it in a select few courts so that it doesn't become overwhelming. And we think this would be a great way for the American people to seek damages against the Chinese government.
Before joining Congress, you deployed 5 times overseas as a Navy SEAL. During your 3rd deployment in Afghanistan in 2012, you lost your right eye in an IED blast. And despite your injuries, you deployed 2 more times overseas. I just want to know what gave you the strength. Yes, pretty amazing.
There was never really another option except to try and get back with the guys, get back in the platoon.
Dan Crenshaw, who I think is going to be a leader in this country for a long time to come, Republican, served bravely as a special operator.
This is a time where we actually have to come together and live with that duty to our community, that duty to each other, that duty as a good citizen. Now is not the time for political stone throwing or taking advantage of one another. It's a time for helping one another.
We also just know that we can't get away with the same things the left can get away with. I mean, it's amazing what they get away with. And so we just don't fight that way. But it's got to stop. It's nonsense. There's plenty to disagree on substantive terms. Let's just actually debate those things.